This is a little bit strange, isn't it? I'm not used to having endless time to talk. Hi, I'm Meg. You might know me from my TikTok. I'm megsreadsbooks. I've been thinking about making a booktube channel for a while, and a lot of you guys said you'd watch it. I didn't really know what to do for my first video, so I have 12 books that are my most favourite books of all time. And I thought I'd share them with you today, and I'd talk a bit about them, what they're about and why you should read them. I'm aware you can see little mini Gillian. Put some respect on her. These aren't in any order. It's just vibes, except one. One is like my ultimate favourite, and you'll know because I'll do it last. And I think everyone already knows what it is already. The rest of them are like not ordered, I just love them. Okay, so the first book is Where'd You Go, Bernadette by Maria Semple. I attach a lot of meaning to like my reading experience and the stories of like when I read them and how I read them to how much I enjoy a book. And I wasn't reading very much when I read this the first time. I read it on my Kindle the first time. And I wasn't reading very much, and I read it because Kate Blanchett is in the movie, and if you know me, I'm a whore for a MILF actress. So I read it in one night. I loved it. It was one of the most heartfelt books I've ever read. You can tell. This one, I have 2 copies, and this one is the one I annotated. And you can tell how much I love it by how much pink there is, and also by how much blue, because that's what made me cry. I cried a lot reading this. I think because it's about like a mother-daughter relationship. I think my relationship with my mum is obviously one of my strongest, and she's the most important person in the world to me. It was a lot to read it and think of her and also think of Kate. Really funny as well. It's really funny, so don't let me saying it's sad and it's heartfelt like put you off. It's very funny. I laughed all the way to the end. There's a lot of orange as well, hence why you should read it. Very character driven, and it's very funny, and I want to read more of Maria Semple, but I just haven't got around to it yet, and I don't think any book she writes is ever going to live up to this because I love it so much. The next book that is one of my all-time favourites is Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children by Ransom Riggs. This, again, I attach a lot of meaning to where I read it, how I read it, what it, like the experience was like for me. Again, one of the first like YA books I ever read, and it has old creepy photographs that match with the plot. The vibes in this are immaculate. It's creepy, it's set in the present day, and you like time travel to the 1930s. And Miss Peregrine is the ward of these children that have abilities. And they're stuck in a time loop, and Miss Peregrine is one of my favourite characters of all time. Mainly because in the movie she's played by Evelyn, and she just gives me MILF vibes. I want Miss Peregrine to look after me, basically. Action-packed, it's got romance, and most importantly, the vibes. Gothic, magical, creepy. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. The next book I think I've mentioned a couple of times, but I don't really talk about it very much. And that is Codename Verity. It is hands down the most heartbreaking book I've ever read. This is harrowing, painful. It tells the story of a female friendship in World War II. That sort of gives you everything you need to know. I think it was nice to read a book about female friendship. Like there's no other real relationship in this book other than that friendship. And yeah, if you want to bawl your eyes out, this one. If you watch my TikTok, this one is kind of an obvious one because, as I've said, as Mini Gillian indicates, I am obsessed with MILF actresses, and this is Carol. I think it's also published under The Price of Salt. It's about an older woman who falls in love with a younger woman, and she's getting a divorce, and she had a kid, and the film, Kate Blanchett and Rooney Mara, obviously I watched that first. Again, I cried a lot. I annotated this again, and there is so much blue. I don't know if you can see that, but that is all blue because that is all where I cried. It is a book where like the relationship is so all-encompassing, and me as a young gay girl who is obsessed with middle-aged actresses and middle-aged women, this book means a lot to me. I felt seen for quite a lot of it, and considering how long ago it was published, I found that really interesting. But I felt very seen, I felt very represented. Like the way that Highsmith describes love is, oh, it's so good. And it's also very sad. It's very sad because it's about 2 women in a time where two women really, it was not okay for them to be together, especially because Carol is married, getting a divorce but married, and yeah, as you can imagine, it's a tumultuous relationship they have. Anyway, I want to be Therese. Basically, the moral of this is I want to be Therese. This is also about this is about middle-aged actresses. I have spoken about this one on my TikTok as well, but this is something to talk about by Meryl Wilsner. Oh, this is so good. It is like a self-insert fanfiction that I would write, but it's well written. Don't let the word fanfiction put you off. It is so well written. Slow burn, an assistant falls in love with the actress that she's working for. It's literally my dream. I also read this in one night. If I read it in one night, I really enjoyed it because I couldn't put it down. I could not put this down. There's a bit of miscommunication, which I know a lot of people don't like, but I found that it really worked in this book. I'm actually considering it's a female-female romance because you know us gays. I love romances with these covers, and this is female-female and about an actress, and it was like it was written for me. Like, this feels like it was written for me. It's an accident the way that this has turned out, that I have put all my gay books pretty much all together. They're all in one big lump. The next book is One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. I hated Red, White and Royal Blue. I'm a politics student. The whole thing just did not like it, did not vibe with it. I DNF'd it, actually. I DNF'd it. Oddly enough, I knew I wanted to read this. It has speculative elements to it as well, so it's not just a pure romance, but it's female-female. There's a bit of time travel, there's a tube. Well, I say tube because I'm British, it's a subway. There's a subway that is like stuck, well, Jane rides the subway every day. She's stuck on the subway and August and Jane meet, and this story ensues. The writing's so easy to read. That's the first time that's ever happened to me, where one author has written a book that I DNF'd and did not like at all, and another is one of my all-time favourites. And Jane Sue is one of my fictional girlfriends now, so I am deeply in love with her. Deeply. The next one is a classic. A classic. This is Catching Fire by Suzanne Collins. This series has my heart. I love this series. It spurred on the entirety of 2014 booktube, because every dystopian book that came out then was basically as a result of how successful these were. I love Katniss. I love Jennifer Lawrence as Katniss. I love Katniss and Peter. I despise Gale. Is my favourite in the series. Mockingjay is obviously, I think, is a bit rushed. Could have been a lot better. The Hunger Games is also incredible. I don't know, it hit different. It hit different. I think because we start to introduce the wider elements of dystopia, the wider like implications of the Hunger Games. There's a bigger plot going on underneath just trying to survive the Hunger Games. And I highly recommend, if you've watched the movie and you love the movie, the book is basically the movie. It's so fast paced that you can read it so quickly. I love it. The next one I actually have a reading vlog on my TikTok for as well, and it is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. The cover. Look at the cover. The cover. And also, look at that. Another one where it's very character driven, it's not very fast paced, it's not very action packed. So if that's what you look for in books, that's probably not what you're going to enjoy, but I really enjoy a character driven book with lots of prose. And it's sad. It was so sad. The ending was so sad. I know a lot of people found that it didn't develop enough for them to be sad about it, but I did. I was incredibly attached to Addie. And I think about it now as really sweet, because the whole book is about how she can't form attachments to people because nobody ever remembers her. I feel like now I'm talking about it, I'm like, I remember you, Addie, I remember you. And I would love to meet someone like Addie, someone who lived that long. That's basically why I love this book, because I love Addie, and I also love V.E. Schwab's writing. No disrespect to Suzanne Collins, who I just spoke about, but her writing is obviously, it's very fast-paced, it's very straight to the point, action-packed. V.E. Schwab's writing is arguably very different, and I like that. I really want to annotate this soon, but I've got a lot of books to read before I can start rereading books. The next book is one I left at university because I am a grade A idiot. No, I am currently rereading it and annotating it. As I said, I wouldn't do with Addie LaRue. Is We Are Okay by Nina LaCour. Quite a recent read. I read it at the start of this year. It's very short, it's sapphic. Basically, it's a book about loneliness, it's a book about loss. And it was one of the most impactful books I've ever read. It was heartbreaking, but also I found it very cathartic. I found it very comforting. It's my comfort book. I read it, I find it very comforting. There is plot to it, but I found that secondary to how beautiful I found the writing and how much it resonated with me. And I often say, like, sometimes you find a book and you read a book at the most perfect, like it came to you, like it was the most perfect book that you needed right there. And I needed that book when I read it. If I was to order these books, that book would probably be second. I love it. The book also kind of fits in that category of I read it at the perfect time, it was what I needed to read, and that is Anxious People. Basically, it's about a shooting that takes place, I think it's in Sweden, it must be in Sweden because they talk about Stockholmers. And the aftermath of that, the detectives trying to work out what happened, and you also get a timeline of it happening, and it's very character driven. It's funny, it's sweet. I feel it in my chest. I'm like, whoa, like whoa. Sometimes you read it like a phrase and you're like, oh. Not like one of those where the characters are entirely likeable and you love this whole cast of characters. There's a lot of characters. I didn't find that off-putting. I usually do. I don't like big casts of characters because I get very confused very easily because I read very quickly. But in this, I found them all very distinct. Not necessarily likeable, like I said, but interesting enough that I wanted to keep reading. It was a very sweet book, and it's one of those books that you can really say changed your life. Like, this book changed my life. We Are Okay changed my life. This changed, maybe not my life, but how I look at life. Another booktube classic, another book talk classic, Clockwork Princess by Cassandra Clare. I know. Cassandra Clare's books are the book equivalent of McDonald's. Like, I didn't enjoy it and it's really bad, but it's also so good. It's so good. Tessa Gray is one of my favourite fictional characters of all time. She's another one of my bookish girlfriends. I love her so much. And my favourite part about this book is, as a little gay girl, everyone was either Team Will or Team Jem, and I am Team Will. I will have that known. But I was Team Tessa. I was always Team Tessa. Shadowhunter's book that is set in Victorian London, in the same world as the Mortal Instruments, so there are these Nephilim Shadowhunters who have angel blood in them and they fight demons, and that's basically the premise of the whole series. I loved the whole series of the Infernal Devices, but this is probably the best wrap-up of a series I've ever read. Ever. Like, the epilogue, everyone knows this epilogue. Oh. Hits you, it hits you in that. I really want the necklace. I'm on Etsy of like the Clockwork Angel necklace. I really want it. Looking at it the whole video, you know what my all-time favourite book is. It's The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Taylor Jenkins Reid is my favourite author. She has yet to write a book that I have not liked. It is about Evelyn Hugo, who is an actress. She's a Cuban actress, sort of akin to Marilyn Monroe, and if you couldn't tell by the title, she marries 7 men. But they are not the love of her life, and the book is about her life. You read it and you forget that Evelyn Hugo is not a real person. Taylor Jenkins Reid's writing is so transportative and so encompassing. A lot of these books, you might have noticed, have been books that make me cry. I love books that make me cry, that make me feel something. This was next level. Full on weeping. This was like snot, like red face. Oh. I cannot tell you what this book did to me. When it impacts you that much, it feels like I just need to hug this book. It's also sapphic, and as a connoisseur, you may say, of middle-aged actresses, this has more than a bit of a meaning for me. And it's one of those books where, because Taylor Jenkins Reid's other books sort of all link into the same universe, when something is referenced that's in this book, I'm like... But it's also one of these books that I'm scared to read again, because if I reread it and it's like not the most perfect experience, I'm gonna be so sad. But I also really do need to reread it because I need to annotate it. This is it. This is like the holy grail of books for me. Thank you for watching my first ever booktube video. If you've made it this far, you are an icon. Comment if you're from my TikTok, because I will go and I will follow you if I don't already. You guys are amazing. You have made very happy because I love talking. I know you might have noticed I'm not a very critical reader. I don't I read for enjoyment, but I just love talking about books, and it's fun to finally talk to people who understand how much I love something. It feels, yeah, makes my heart warm. So I will see you again soon. Bye.